"You missed a spot," the businessman muttered, without even looking up, his phone screen glowing in his hand. The young waitress stiffened, balancing the tray against her hip, but said nothing. She moved to clear the table beside him, her steps light, her face calm, but her eyes carried a weight. No one noticed. He smirked as if her silence was proof of her place, then added, "People like you don't last long in rooms like this." Her hand paused on the glass she was lifting. She turned her head slowly. Meeting his gaze square on, her voice was steady, almost too steady for someone in a plain apron. "You think I am just a waitress, don't you?" The words slipped like a knife through velvet. His phone lowered, and for the first time he looked at her. Fully, his lips curled in amusement. "Just a waitress. That's exactly what you are." A faint smile touched her lips, but it wasn't submission, it was challenge. "If that's true, then tell me why the name on the deed of this hotel is mine." His smirk cracked his hand, tightening around the glass as whispers rippled through the dining hall. The man's face drained of color, but the waitress kept speaking, calm, unshaken. "I work these floors because I want to know the people who live under my roof. I want to know who they really are when they think no one important is watching." The businessman's throat bobbed as the reality sank in. He glanced around at the faces staring at him, then back at the woman in the apron, who now stood taller than him without moving an inch. Her words landed heavy. "I am not here to serve your pride. I am here to see your truth, and tonight I've seen enough." The room froze, forks halfway to mouths, whispers breaking out like cracks in glass. The businessman tried to laugh it off, a dry, nervous sound. "Surely you're joking," he said, reaching for his phone again, as if the screen could shield him from the weight of her words. But the waitress, no, the owner, took a step closer, her gaze unwavering. "Do you think I would speak a lie in my own house?" Gasps rolled through the tables. A manager appeared at the corner of the hall, his face pale with sudden understanding. He stammered, "Madame, I didn't know you were here." She lifted a hand, silencing him without breaking eye contact with the man in the suit. He had gone stiff, shoulders squared, but his confidence leaking like water from a cracked glass. She set the tray down on his table, the silver clinking softly. "I built this place not to feed egos, but to give work. To people like the girl you snapped at earlier." She gestured toward a nervous young server by the door. The businessman blinked, sweat gathering at his temples. His voice trembled. You could have told me from the start." Her reply was sharp, "Because the way you treat those you think are powerless shows me more than the way you treat me with my title." The hall grew so silent, the hum of the lights pressed loud against every ear. Guests exchanged glances, shame prickling, some admiration stirring others. The man shifted in his chair, every trace of arrogance stripped away, replaced by something he had not felt in years: exposure. He tried to speak, but the words tangled in his throat. She leaned in just enough for only him to hear. "Wealth means nothing if it cannot carry respect." Her breath was steady, her eyes like fire. "You forgot that tonight. You remembered." The man's hand shook as he set his glass down, the ice clinking louder than it should have. He could feel every eye in the room on him, waiting to see if he would fight back or fold. His lips parted, but no words came, only the heavy silence of a man stripped of armor. The waitress straightened her apron, the calm in her voice cutting sharper than anger. "You thought I was beneath you. But all I did was give you the chance to show who you really are, and you did." The young server she had defended earlier stepped closer, her wide eyes fixed on the woman in awe. The owner gave her a small nod of reassurance before turning back. To the man at the table, her tone softened but carried no mercy. "Respect is not a game you play only when the stakes are high. It is the measure of who you are when no one you fear is watching." The businessman shifted his gaze to the crowd, hoping for support, but found only stares of disapproval. Guests who once laughed at his jokes now looked at him as though he were a stranger exposed. The walls that had always bent in his favor now leaned heavy against him. Finally, he rose his chair, scraping back his voice rough. "I didn't know." His words faltered because he knew they sounded hollow. The waitress tilted her head. "That's the point you never cared to know." She let the weight of that truth hang in the air, then stepped back, giving him space to drown in it. And in that moment, for the first time, the power in the room no longer belonged to him. It belonged to the woman in the apron, who had chosen to live among her people, not above them. The man's shoulders slumped, his pride crumbling. Under the weight of her words around him, the gala crowd stayed hushed, no one daring to break the silence. The waitress-turned-owner picked up the tray again, but this time not as a servant, as a reminder. She spoke steady enough for the whole hall. "To hear respect is not given to me because of a title. Respect is something you either carry in your heart or you don't." The manager stepped forward, his voice trembling. "Madam, do you want me to remove him?" She shook her head. "No, he has already been removed by his own actions." The man lowered his eyes, unable to meet hers, the arrogance that once defined him dissolving into shame. For the first time in years, he was not in control, and he knew it. She walked toward the exit, every step, measured every gaze following her. As she reached the door, she glanced back, her eyes landing on the man one last time. "If you remember anything tonight, remember this. Kindness never weakens power, it defines it." Then she was gone, leaving the hall heavier than when she entered. The guests slowly began to clap, hesitant at first, then stronger, until the sound filled the room. The man remained standing, frozen, unable to move, his face pale, his hands trembling. He had come expecting admiration and applause, but left with something he had never prepared for, a mirror held to his soul.